Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card uses the Mama Elephant Woodland Gifts stamp set. It's got a bunch of little animals in it and the sentiments are really cute too. I'm also using this Little Bee Hearts die set. It comes in this magnetic folder, so it's great storage. It has 11 dies altogether. I did a lot of research before I bought this because I liked how it could cut just plain old hearts like this one, or it could just cut the X's that are around it, like little slits in the paper. And so you could choose to have just solid hearts, or it's almost like stitched, but they're X's hearts. So I'm going to be using these three pieces right here. I'm going to start by creating my scene. I'm going to use my MISTI and my grid sheet to stamp all my stamps here. I'm going to have the log sort of hanging off the edge, and then I'm going to arrange my raccoon right next to that, and I'm using the grid sheet to make sure that they are all at the same level. When I stamped the log, I got some ink on my foam mat in the MISTI. I just wipe it off and it comes right off, so it's really easy to clean. I'm going to pause now to die cut my heart. I use my paper piercer to move things around on my magnetic platform. I want to cut these both at the same time just because it's going to be easier. So I'll run that through the Big Shot. So I've got my heart with the stitching on the inside, and then I'm going to use that next inside heart to just cut a white piece of cardstock that'll go right in the center, and that's where I'll put my sentiment. Now I'm just making sure that everything's positioned okay and that it's all going to work, and it does. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my bear. So put the grid sheet back on so I could see how far away my bear needs to be and how high he needs to be. And I'm going to put him just a little bit to the left of the heart, and I'm going to leave about a ½ inch at least space on the left hand side to add some pattern paper later. Alright, so I've got these all stamped. It's time to color. I'm going to kind of whiz through this coloring. I'm using Copic markers. I've got W1, 3, and 5. It's just kind of it's called W for warm, so it's like a warm gray. And I start with my darkest W5 and move in with my W3 and then finally the W1. For his ears, I'm just using a little bit of the RV00. I'm trying to keep my coloring pretty simple, so I'm only using 3 colors on the raccoon. His entire body is going to be C1 and C4. So I just started with the C4 and then I added the C1. These are C for cool, so cool gray. For the stripes, I'm also using C4 and C1, as you can see here, and those are going to be the lighter stripes. And then for the eye patch and the other stripes, I'm using C6 and C4. So I'm just moving up one in the color family. And I'm just going to create kind of a lighter area in the center of the tail. And then again, RV00 for the inside of the ears. For the mushroom, I'm just again using 2 colors. The tips of these sketch markers are very, very fine, so it's really easy to just barely dot it and get inside the lines and around those circles. And then just 2 colors on the log. I'm just going to use E44, E43, and I went back in the second time. This is E44 again. The bear is a pretty large area to color, so when you're coloring large areas, I would recommend using colors that are pretty close together. So you can see my 35 and 37 are pretty close. One is just slightly lighter than the other, and it just makes it easier to blend when you have such a wide area. You probably also notice that my E37 is a different shape, and that's because this is an original Copic marker. It has a very kind of stiff tip to it. I don't really like it. I like the brushes of the sketch markers much better, but my husband bought me that one and he just didn't know. Anyway, I wanted his belly and his nose to be a little lighter, so I'm just using an E30 and blending it out with a 0 marker, so it's kind of whitish. I'm just going to use 2 colors for my grass. I'm going to start with my dark one, YG17, and what I like to do with the grass is flick upward. And as I move off to the side, I'm flicking to the side, and then I make the lines a little shorter. When I'm underneath the critters that are standing on the grass, I just dot the grass. So there will be grass underneath there. It'll just be a little smush because they're sitting on it. I don't feel the need to do grass all the way across the whole card. I'm just creating a little patch under each of the animals just to ground them. And also, I don't want to draw too much attention away from them. I just want it to be sort of part of the scene, but not a focal point. So you can see also that I'm dotting it as I extend it out, just to kind of fade it out. Now when I go back in there with the YG23, this is YG23, I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm just filling in the gaps with another color, just to give a little variation. For my sentiment, I'm going to use a big acrylic block so that I could see what I'm doing. A lot of times I put it on a small block that just fits the stamp, and then I can't see where I'm stamping it. So I'm going to break the sentiment up. I'm going to put some surgical tape on the part I don't want. I'll ink up the UR, with some VersaFine Black Onyx. I'll peel off my surgical tape, and then I'm going to put it right there at the top of the heart. And then I'm going to do that same exact thing. I'll clean it off and ink up the other part of the sentiment and put it right underneath. This was really easy to line up. And as you can see, when you have a bigger block, you can see what you're doing a lot better. I'm going to adhere this to my red heart with my ATG. You can see I use my ATG for pretty much everything, even small areas. You just kind of get used to how large it is. I just can't use anything else just because it's so economical. All right, now I'm going to position my heart and I'm going to draw a pencil line, and that'll show me where I need to put this underneath the animals. So I'm going to grab a mat and a cutting knife. It's just an X-Acto knife. And I'm going to cut around the arms in the front. So I'm not going to worry about those back arms because the back arms are going to be behind the heart. So I'm going to carefully go around the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, you'll look at the close-up photo that I have and it really doesn't look straight at all. But from far away, you can't even tell. So I wouldn't worry about trying to make it exact. And I extend a little bit past the pencil line just so it has a little room to get that heart underneath there. I'll turn it over and push it to make sure that I've cut it all the way through, and I have. So I'm going to move on to the bunny head, and I'm cutting just on the outside of the black outline. So you do want to keep as much of that black outline as you can. So I push it from the back and everything looks good. So now I'm going to move on to my raccoon. And I'm going to cut quite a large amount out of him. I'm going to go around his ears because he is really in front of this red heart. And again, just kind of going past that pencil line just a little bit so the paper has some room to lift up and put that heart underneath. And I'll pop this out and everything looks good. So I am ready to go. I'm going to test it to make sure it's all going to fit right in there. And I'll have to push it from the back, the parts that I've cut out, to get that heart squeezed in there because it is going to be pretty tight. But it actually worked out great. Everything cut perfectly. You can just adjust how much you cut out of the animals depending on where you stamped them, how they're positioned, and how the heart fits. So you just kind of have to adapt a little bit. So I just erased my pencil lines and put some ATG tape runner behind that heart, and I'm just going to squeeze it in there and press it down. I decided to add some Avery Elle Brights paper. I've got this red striped paper, so I'm going to cut about a ½ inch. And I'm going to put it on the left-hand side. So I've got red mushroom, red heart, and red stripe, so it kind of all balances and ties together. I'm going to use my ATG again and place it right there on the left-hand side. And then I just use my scissor to cut off the edge. That way I know it fits right. I'm going to use my Black Beetle Doodlebug twine, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. I don't like to wrap my twine around the card because it's just kind of a lot of work and hard to do sometimes. So I just put some ATG on each edge and wrap it around, just a smaller piece that I cut to extend just a little bit beyond the edge. And then I'll take the twine and make a bow. A lot of people ask me how I do this, and really it's just like tying a shoelace. I just create this bow. And then I usually spend 30 seconds or 45 seconds just arranging it. So kind of pulling the tails and kind of, forming the bow until it's perfect. And this twine is really easy to manage. So I'll cut that off and use a glue dot to put it on top of the thread that I've already adhered. So I just kind of roll it around till it becomes a circle, and then I put it where I want my bow to be, and then I just press my bow down. And the thread covers up the stickiness of the glue dot, so it really doesn't make the card sticky or anything, and it will not move. So I love doing it this way, and you don't have to wait for anything to dry. And you can still pull it a little bit and arrange it once you put it on the glue dot. So I just made it a little bit smaller. I just didn't want it to get smushed in the envelope. So now I'm going to take my ATG and I'm going to adhere this to my card base, which is just Neenah Solar White 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch folded. And then I'm going to grab my Copic liner and just highlight the eyes just a little bit because they do tend to get a little faded when you color over them. In this survey you guys filled out, I had a few people ask about card insides. So I decided to make an effort to add a little bit of extra inside the card. So I took my heart confetti punch by Stampin' Up! And I just cut a bunch of hearts out of the same red paper I used to die cut that heart that the animals are holding. And I'm just going to use my Pick Me Up stick and my 2-way glue pen to adhere a few on the lower right hand side and then on the upper left hand side. And that completes the card for today. So I hope you enjoyed that, a cute little Valentine's Day card, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.